Good evening. My name is Wai-Ping Sum, and I serve as chair of the Asia Society Texas Center Board.
I am Bonna Cole, president of the Asia Society Texas Center. It is our pleasure to welcome you to our annual Huffington Award event.
Although we are unable to gather with you in person, we are happy that you have joined us virtually to celebrate Charles Foster as he receives the distinguished Huffington Award. Congratulations, Charles and Lily. Please stay tuned for the dialogue with Charles and Dr. Ann Chow to take place later on in the program. The year 2020 has presented unprecedented challenges to our global, national, and local communities. In Houston, and as of March, we shelter in place in our respective homes and were cut off from one another. I am proud to share that Asia Society quickly pivoted to providing online resources and programs. And equally as important, the organization ensured our ability to stay connected to one another. Asia Society was present during a critical time of need and will continue to be a resource for Houston in the future. This video highlights our offerings during the last 7 months.
I'm so honored to be part of this auspicious Zoom gathering. I hope you're going to settle in for what I think is going to be such a treat.
Hi y'all, I thought we could use an art break, so I'm going to take you out with me into the Asia Society Texas Sculpture Garden.
You know, I don't have a harpsichord here, but I do have this other instrument.
Ooh, yeah.
That's important for everybody to remember. The power we have by our actions, by our caring and our involvement to inspire other people.
It is an honor to serve and be a part of the Houston community, to build understanding of diverse perspectives and people for a shared future based on equity and inclusion. I have visited many U.S. cities and countries around the globe, and there is no better place than Houston, where there is genuine warmth and acceptance of people of all backgrounds. We have truly missed seeing and being with all of you. Ping and I would like to give our thanks to the sponsors, and special thanks to our dedicated board and staff, and to the major sponsors of this event: Nancy Allen, Muffet Blake, Eddie Allen and Chin Hee Chu, Foster LLP. We're thankful that you're passionate about our endeavor to uplift human connectivity by building cross-cultural understanding.
The work that you are about to see in the upcoming video is made possible because each of you have offered your time, talent, and treasure. On behalf of Bonna, the board, I want to say thank you. We are grateful for your support. We hope you enjoy the brief Asia Society's video and tonight's program. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
My name's Scott McClellan. Most people know me as the HEB guy. In a year that has been unprecedented and challenging in many respects, for us to all come together in celebration is an opportunity that we should cherish. Sarai and I are especially honored to serve as co-chairs on this special occasion, as this evening honors one of our friends and frankly an exemplary community leader, both locally and globally. I've had the pleasure of introducing Charles Foster as the recipient of the 2020 Huffington Award. As many of you know, Charles is a lifelong Texan and a longtime chairman of the Asia Society Texas Center for over 20 years, and he still serves on its board. He's made an immeasurable impact in Houston and beyond during his decades as an immigration attorney, and he's worked tirelessly in inspiring immigration reform, cultivating international understanding, and strengthening cross-cultural relationships. Charles is the chairman of Foster LLP. Guess who that's named after? One of the largest global immigration law firms. Charles offers his time and many talents to such nonprofits as Interfaith Ministries, the Greater Houston Partnership, the U.S.-China Partnerships, the Houston Ballet, the American Immigration Lawyers Association, and some others. But what most people don't see is the impact that Charles has on individuals' lives, people who want to come to the United States to either earn a better living and contribute to our society or reunite with family and loved ones. And it's tied in with these stories that you really see the impact that Charles has on what he does. The bottom line is this: Charles Foster transforms lives through his passion, his work, and the generosity of his spirit. Let's take a look at this video highlighting the impact that Charles has made on the lives of those around him.
I and Charles met through friends of the Shanghai Film Studio. And the first date, we at an ice cream store called Ben & Jerry's on Kirby. Charles can be trusted through his eyes when I first met him. I don't want to change Charles at all. Charles planned his own 70th birthday celebration. And we're gonna do the zip line adventure. 4.6 miles long, the longest and the fastest one in North America. And Charles was on there and he waved to me and he smiled, he said, take picture and videos. He just feel great. He was a mountain climber, so then I'm the last one, my leg was shaking. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Something about Charles that most people don't know, he was quite an accomplished mountain climber. I think it wasn't until we came along that my mom made him give up his mountain climbing hobby just because it did get a little dangerous. A fun memory I've had with my dad growing up was just the numerous times we had movie night, and we had a weekly movie night, and many of those times was often a Western.
He used to sing this song called Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Darling, from one of his favorite movies, High Noon.
Do not forsake me, oh my darling.
Actually, he sings very well, and in the shower room is special. And one more thing is very, very interesting when Charles, as an honorary consul general, hosting the Queen of the Thailand, and we have a dinner together. The Queen talked to her tempui, like her court ladies. Say, you ready? They say yes, and all of a sudden, they all sing the same song. Do not forsake me. Yes, the same one. So Charles was shocked. He said, this is his favorite song. How about Queen can sing? The whole delegation sings the same thing.
The most important thing my dad taught me is not to give up, really just try my best, and whatever results is going to be okay.
My dad's one of the most selfless people I know, especially with his time. He never says no to anyone.
He always tell me this is his last project. I believe him, and then after one, it's other one, and the other one. So I know he won't be stopped.
I first met Charles in the mid-90s or so when I started to get involved in the Asia Society. It was a very small organization at that time, and as I recall, it was sustained in some years merely by the force of Charles's personality and by his circle of friends and supporters. Whether it's through getting Yao Ming to help out or to help bring the notable and famous that Charles knows throughout the world to Houston, he's been a great contributor. Whenever Charles gets involved in anything, he is tireless and puts his whole heart into it. Whether it's immigration reform, resettlement for refugees, supporting the myriad organizations and good works around town to promote Houston, Charles goes all in. I think Charles has earned his place in the pantheon of luminaries who've supported the Asia Society, not just here in Houston, but in the country and around the world. Houston is very fortunate to have Charles Foster and Lily Foster among our leading citizens. They have promoted Houston and our community in so many varied ways. We're really lucky to have them, and I pay my great respects to them and their family for all they've done.
When I first arrived to the United States, I had no idea about what I was going to be able to accomplish or achieve. I have not been able to accomplish, what I've been able to accomplish without the advice and the help of Charles. When you just meet Charles and you're coming from a foreign country, he gives you a sense of knowledge, a sense of peace, just the way he listens. And you know that he's relating to you. Charles is not only a great immigration attorney and a great advisor, but Charles is also an inspiration for everybody coming to this country because of his civic duty. Once you meet Charles, you know you're in the right place.
It's very special to be the honoree, particularly receiving the Roy M. Huffington Award. Being part of the Asia Society has been very important to me. And Roy was just an extraordinary human being. Whenever I asked him, even when he turned 90, what are you doing? He was the most positive person I ever knew. He always said, Charles, I'm just so busy. I'm off to Kazakhstan tomorrow, then I've got to fly to Washington, then back to Vienna. He was always doing something, and I greatly admired him. The biggest case, of course, I'll always be associated with was the representation of my good friend Lee Twin-Sin, because it presented so many unique geopolitical and legal issues. As an attorney, you do not anticipate when you're representing someone, you anticipate many things, but not to have your client gang tackled and dragged off when you're asked to go into an adjoining room. One of the most dangerous things I had to do is to wake a federal judge up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I argued my case to obtain a temporary injunction and a writ of habeas corpus on a loading dock at the federal court loading dock before 2 federal judges at 6 in the morning. And for me, one of the stress points was that I was separated from Lee, never knowing what he was going to do. And fortunately, he showed he had a great deal of confidence in me because the Chinese were telling him that I had abandoned him. So it was clearly the most important case I ever handled.
Without Charles's help, I would not be where I am today, or I would never have the kind of success in my dancing career and literary career and the business career. He went out of his way trying to help him to resolve the tense, most incredibly difficult political situation with the negotiating with the Chinese government, with the White House, and to ensure my freedom. Charles is a very special man, one of a kind. His intellect, his intense interest in political arts, philanthropy. He just wants to make a difference to the society. I've very rarely met a man with a big heart like his, and the kindness, the generosity. For me, Charles is a Renaissance man. You see him everywhere, helping everyone. So for me, Charles has been a mentor, a dear friend, but I learned so much from him, and just his curiosity and interest in for just hunger for knowledge is truly a rarity.
Hello, my name is Ann Chow. The video we just saw gave us a quick glimpse into Charles Foster's accomplished life, and I'm honored to hold a conversation with Charles and learn more about his amazing life. Charles, please tell us a little about your childhood, education, and career choices.
First, Ann, I want to thank you for doing this. It's an honor to be interviewed by you and to be here today. I was born on the island, Galveston, Texas. We moved around a lot, and my father had a hard time keeping a job, and my mother moved us by the time I was in the third grade to a little northeastern Texas town called Royce City that had a population of 200. My mother taught school there, and she once told me that the greatest cross she ever had to bear was teaching me in the 4th and 5th grade, because she was the only 4th and 5th grade teacher. So that little town was a little oppressive for her. She was ahead of her time. She had a master's in English. She moved us to Mack Island, me and my 2 sisters, and she taught school there. When I got to Mack Island, Texas, on the Mexican border, that was very significant for me, because I discovered Mexico, a different culture, and we spent several years there, and then we moved to Corpus Christi. And I was able to get into the University of Texas and graduated with a degree in government. Other universities call it political science. But I really focused on Latin America. A group of friends and I called ourselves Latin Americanists. When I graduated, I joked, I said to everyone, I felt like I had a degree in Reading Time magazine. I was sort of up on current affairs, but I didn't know how I was going to get a job. I thought about going into the Foreign Service. But because we had moved around so much, I wanted to, that didn't appeal to me. So I went to law school and graduated also from the University of Texas School of Law.
Tell us how you met Lily. What is it like to be married to a former movie star?
I met Lily, just like so much in my life, through my law practice. We had a mutual friend. Lily had come to the United States. She was born and raised in Shanghai, and she has an extraordinary story herself. She was sort of literally discovered toward the end of the Cultural Revolution, when she was working 7 days a week in the countryside, and she was taken to Shanghai, to the Shanghai Film Studio, to do a film test. And although with no acting experience, she found herself in the lead role in a very sort of a revolutionary movie that became one of Chairman Mao's favorite movies. So she made about 20 films in China and became, I wouldn't say a star because they didn't have a star system, but she had been a leading actress, and she came here. I always thought she came here to be discovered by Hollywood. The joke is I discovered her first. But she had the opportunity to do a screen test in Hollywood. She was studying at the University of Houston to get her master's in drama, which she did. And a mutual friend wanted us to meet because she was on a student visa and she would need a work authorized visa status. So he asked me if I would meet her and him. And so I was driving over to the River Oaks Country Club, and I said I'd meet them on the way at Nympha's, which at that time they had a branch on Kirby at Richmond, which is now in Pecos. So I met her, and I immediately fell in love. She was stunningly beautiful. I was a bigger movie buff than she was. I had by that time developed a great interest in China. And so I tried to date her, but that was sort of difficult. Dating was sort of a concept that was not that well known in China. China at that time was a very moralistic country, but eventually worked out, and we were married about 3 years later.
So what made you go into immigration law?
Well, I went into immigration law. I think I got it into my DNA. I mentioned earlier that one of the significant events in my life was when my mother moved us down to the Rio Grande Valley, right on the Mexican border. We would go over every Sunday over to Reynosa for lunch after church. I thought I discovered Paris because I'd come from this little town of Roy City, where the social highlight of the season would be the opening of the snow cone stand every summer. But here it was a real city with clubs and restaurants. So many of my friends, their fathers worked in the Border Patrol. I sort of became accustomed. In fact, I often joke that I've crossed over that border illegally myself many times, carrying guns to go hunting when I was a kid. So when I was at the University of Texas undergrad and law school, I was focused more on Latin America. So I was determined to become an international lawyer, and I was fortunate. I got out of law school, went with a Wall Street firm in New York City called Reed and Priest, and I quickly discovered that being the international lawyer, my primary client was some large corporate client, and I didn't have the interaction with individuals from Latin America or anywhere for that matter. So I just thought every international lawyer had to know something about immigration, but I quickly discovered no one else thought that way. But I was fortunate. At some point, they asked me to go over to meet the president of a Japanese trading company to take care of his personal immigration issues. So little by little, I became known as the lawyer that knew something about immigration. I joined a big firm here called Butler, Binney & Rice, Cook & Knapp. I kept that up. And so by 1973, I started my own law firm with Harry Tyndall. And at some point, I was able to concentrate exclusively on immigration. And we started with sharing one employee. And today, the firm Foster LLP has 120 employees, 40 immigration lawyers. All we do is do everything that touches any aspect of immigration law. So also I might add that I was able to combine that with an interest in policy, and so that was unique. At different times I testified before the House as well as the Senate subcommittees on immigration, and then probably one of my greatest claim to fame was I was asked when then Governor Bush was going to run for the Republican nomination if I would serve as his policy advisor on immigration. So I worked for him through the 2000 campaign, really right up until the morning of 9/11, where our hope of passing big comprehensive immigration reform came to an end.
What did it take to build one of the largest and best immigration law firm in the world?
It took hard work. That's the secret to anything. People still ask me, because I'm a little older than when I started, if I'm still working. I say, yeah, half-time, just 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so I was fortunate when I started the practice of immigration law in the mid-'70s. We were just becoming a global economy, and many corporations were expanding internationally. Because of President Johnson, who had changed the immigration laws that went into effect in '68, we began to have large-scale inbound immigration, which was really particularly from Asia. So it was just an opportune time with the changes in immigration law and the global economy. We were able to attract large corporate clients and individuals. The story of immigration would be that people would come over to study and then they'd want to stay here and get a job. And so little by little, as I said, we did everything that touched on immigration. The firm grew, and today we have a very large firm. I'm fortunate I have about 10 very competent partners that really significantly run the firm and would do so without me even if I wasn't there.
So your role in helping Li Chunxing stay in the United States, we saw an actor play you in the movies. What was it like to see yourself on the big screen?
Well, when the movie was filmed, Lee and I, we were always talking about this, whether he was going to write a book, but it ever be published. Turned out to be a bestseller. would anyone buy the rights to the book, but for a movie. But we always said we wanted to make sure that it was not given a Hollywood treatment, that whoever did film the movie would do so as accurately as possible, given the time limitations. So I had a great relation with the producer and the director, Bruce Beresford, a wonderful director. He had 2 Academy Award-winning films before that. So they asked me who would like to play me. Because they didn't pay any attention to that, and I had a few ideas. But when they told me Kyle MacLachlan was going to play me, actually I'm a big movie buff, so I immediately knew him from Blue Velvet and other movies, but I didn't quite think he was the right actor. But it was sort of strange. He spent 3 days with me. We all saw the film for the first time at the Toronto International Film Festival, which is the big showcase for new movies. And I remember when the movie credits came up, he was sitting behind me, he grabbed my shoulder and said, how'd I do? And I said, great, although I was sort of shocked when I first saw the movie because all I could see was all the missing pieces. But about that time, the theater exploded with applause, and it got about a 10-minute standing ovation, so I figured it was going to do okay. But it was interesting to have someone play you.
Tell us about your work with immigration reform over the years, and why is it so difficult to get consensus across the aisles?
Well, first, I want to acknowledge that you've been very helpful in supporting efforts to bring about comprehensive immigration reform, DACA reform. It's important because we are a country of immigrants, and we benefit greatly from that. There are big issues which I've worked on since I served as a senior policy advisor to George W. Bush, which what we developed came to be known as comprehensive immigration reform, which simply meant that there are many moving parts. Yes, we have to focus on the border, but other aspects, including what do we do with a large undocumented population. So it's important because immigration is good for America. It's always been difficult, but when we were at a key moment with George W. Bush, he was one of the few presidents, certainly the first president after John F. Kennedy, who made immigration one of his central focus. And I thought we were going to pass comprehensive immigration reform, but all that came to an end on the morning of 9/11, 2001. I knew instantaneously that any effort to pass immigration reform was dead. And ever since then, it's just been hard to get the necessary support across the aisle from the Republicans. It's turned out to be more of a campaign issue. And the restrictionists have now used national security ever since 9/11 to focus exclusively on getting control of the border. And there's been a lot of reasons, but I think in the end it's political. From a policy substantive point of view, it should be easy, but politically it's been very hard.
Your work in support of Asia Society and so many other organizations with an emphasis on cross-cultural relationships has been invaluable. Why is it so important to you to build these ties between countries, cultures, and peoples?
Well, when I first moved to Houston and started practicing in international and then immigration with a concentration in immigration, I decided early on that I would do everything I could to focus on the international community and related organizations. As Willie Sutton said, why do you rob banks? He says, that's where the money is. And I felt that if I was going to focus on these areas of the laws, I should be active. What's interesting is how few there were. You could count them on a couple of fingers. The international community was relatively small. So I had my interest since my college days, really since I lived in McAllen in Latin America. That had early on that expanded to Asia, particularly with China. So I just got involved. I think it was important to me professionally, important to me just because that's where my interests were, to work with these organizations. And early on it was easy to be part of them because, again, there was not that many to start with. But our international communities exploded. Again, I give some credit to President Lyndon B. Johnson, who changed the immigration law to allow immigration from all over the world, not just from Northern Europe, which that's where our quotas were based upon prior to that.
What does it mean to you to be Honorary Consul General of Thailand in Houston?
Well, you know, I've had so many opportunities in life. I really have been blessed, and to serve as the Honorary Consul General of the Kingdom of Thailand has been one of those blessings. Something I never thought of. I often joke. I remember one day after work in Corpus, I jumped over the back fence of a drive-in theater to go up on where there were some lawn chairs. You could see the drive-in movies to watch the movie The King and I, Rodgers and Hammerstein movie. I never thought I would be representing not only the government of Thailand, but when you represent the government of Thailand, you're representing the other side, which is the royal family. So it's been a privilege. I've represented them since '96. Professionally, I've been involved with the diplomatic corps, and so now I'm part of it.
You have been instrumental in maintaining cordial ties between China and also with the United States and as well with Taiwan. Can you tell us a little bit about your work in those areas?
Yeah, you know, I have focused on China, which of course include Taiwan. And it's a little strange because I started with a tremendous focus on Latin America because having grown up on the Mexican border for a number of years. But there was an article that I was quoted in once that I remember in the third grade, the little girl that watched us when my mother was teaching, she used to play this song, A Slow Boat to China. That was popular then. I often thought I got that into my DNA at that point. I later became interested in China reading the wonderful memoir of Nian Chen, A Life and Death in Shanghai. And when I started my career in New York, it was because I spoke Spanish, but one of the first cases they gave me to work on was the right of debenture holders of Shanghai Light and Power because we were opening our relationship with China, and it looked like it was possible for those debenture holders to recover what they had lost after the 49 revolution. So I have focused a lot on China, and I've always felt, as chairman of the Asia Society for many years, that given the rise and the importance of China, that we had to emphasize programming. And I always quoted former President George H.W. Bush, that our most important bilateral relationship was U.S.-China relations, but you could do that and at the same time have appreciation of our relationship with Taiwan, the Taiwan Relations Act, and that there was no inconsistency, and that one could do both at the same time.
You have led the effort in establishing monuments for George Bush, for the fourth-generation Baker family, and the latest for Lyndon B. Johnson. Can you tell us why you led the effort?
Yeah, I often joke it's probably a DNA deficiency or something. I always have to have some project. I have so many interests, whether it be movies, musical comedies, literature, immigration law, but also the presidency of the U.S. I think in part my mother thought I needed a father figure in my life, and she always had in front of me a copy of a portrait of President Eisenhower. And then as a young boy, a scout, I had an opportunity to almost beat President Eisenhower when he dedicated the Falcon Dam. And I sort of snuck up and sat in front of all the audience. And when the president of Mexico, Ruiz Cortines, was speaking in Spanish, Eisenhower winked at me. So I always had this interest in the presidency. I read all the biographies. So when George Bush came back unexpectedly after being defeated in the 92 election, I felt like we were going to have this great presidential library, and when we lost it, I urged the building of a monument, and he said we could name something for President Bush, and I just didn't feel like that was enough. So I sort of, like a lone voice, started this effort, and eventually, along with David Jones, we were able to raise the money. Lee Brown helped me get the land, and we built this monument. And I was asked later to co-chair the Baker Monument, and that was built. And then when Robert Mosbacher died, the Robert Mosbacher Memorial Bridge. On Lyndon Johnson, that was very special. He had a big impact on me because he spoke to my school when I was in school in Corpus Christi, and he blew me away. I'd never seen such a personality. And as I often say, Johnson taught school here, lived right behind us. We live in Cortland Place. And I just thought it was remarkable that a former Houston school teacher literally changed the world. He's now ranked among the 10 greatest presidents. So I led that effort, and we're almost finished and hope to dedicate it in this coming January.
I'm so impressed by your stamina and your passion. How do you do so much every day of your life?
You know, Ann, I just take it for granted, but I think it has to do with the fact that I grew up with all these interests. I'm always, there's never enough time in the day to do all of the stuff I want to do, to read all the newspapers, magazines, watch all of the news stories, the drama, see all the movies, and there's so many interesting things going on. And I think for whatever reason, early on, I felt like it was important to be involved, or to paraphrase Teddy Roosevelt, to be in the arena, just not on the sidelines. And so when, in some small ways, I've always thought I would like to make a contribution to whatever I was doing, whether it be through the Asia Society or to our community here in Houston. So I think the short answer is there's just too much to do. I don't have time to rest.
You were an avid mountain climber, and once you were marooned on an island in the Pacific. Can you tell us a little bit more about these adventures?
Yeah, I think that gets to my prior questions. There was so much I wanted to do. Growing up in the flattest places in Texas, for some reason I was intrigued with climbing mountains. And so at some point, with my law partner, Harry Tyndall, we climbed the highest peak in Texas before they had this nice trail they have now in Guadalupe Peak. And we just, in the late 70s and the 80s, we just went about climbing, sort of moving up the ladder and I focused all of my interest, rather than on politics at that time or other activities, on the next big mountain. There was always, I always said it was the planning and the effort and that went into it. It was just other projects. So I always wanted to climb mountains that were significant. So we climbed some of the most here, the Grand Tetons, Mount Rainier, but then we went internationally to the Andes and to Europe and other places, climbing mountains. Perhaps the most interesting would have been Mount Ararat. Just the logistics of climbing there, working with the Turkish military, it was complicated, and we teamed up with a group called archaeologists. They were looking for Noah's Ark, and I'll just end on this. As we traded equipment, their team leader, who happened to be Jim Irwin, met me and said, as we were exchanging equipment, and said, Charles, you want me to tell you where Noah's Ark is? We found it. And I turned to him and I said, this is a hell of a world. Who would have ever thought that I'd be standing on the side of a mountain talking to an American astronaut who led Apollo 15 to the moon, asking me, do I want to be told where Noah's Ark is? So that's another story.
In your own words, can you tell us an incident or a situation that has left deep impression on you and shaped your life?
I'll be brief. There's so many. I think my mother's decision to move us out of this little small, as she called, repressive East Texas town, to putting us on the Mexican border changed my life in so many ways. Certainly on the focus on immigration, different cultures, language. So I think that would be, I could list certainly meeting Lily, all of my children. There's so many other things. My mother was an extraordinary influence in my life. She was such a positive force. I often said I never heard her say a critical word about anybody. She could always find something positive in every situation, even though she led a very difficult life.
And finally, what advice do you have for the young audience who will have to navigate this very complicated world?
My advice to the young audience would be what I give to all of my children: be involved. Don't be on the sidelines. Just don't sit there and play some video game, but know what's going on. Realize you're passing through a moment in history, and do something relevant, whatever that might be for your community. Do something beyond just your professional goals.
Great. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Ann and Charles, what a fantastic conversation. Truly, truly a special time to learn so much about Charles, you and your life. You are a man of our community. You're clearly a man of the Foster family. And we consider you a very special man of the Asia Society Texas Center. Over the past 30 years, you've made the Asia Society Texas Center one of the best centers in the world. And we could not be more proud of all the work you've done on our behalf. I'm Marty Goosen. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Asia Society Texas Center Board, and I'm proud to be here tonight to start our toast section of the evening. Charles, Kathy and I got here 15 years ago, and when we arrived, frankly, after 28 years in Asia, we knew almost no one. But we gravitated to the Asia Society Texas Center, and you and Lily pulled us in and got us involved, and we could not be more happy to be part of this fantastic organization. We've spent many fun times with you. One of the ones I remember the most is the evening you had Yao Ming at your home. What a wonderful young man, so articulate, so much fun to speak with, except when you talk to him, you have to look almost to the sky. It was really quite an experience, but we would not have met him if it hadn't been for you. And then of course, you and I are co-chairs of the Business and Policy Committee. That's been great fun over the years, and we've had a lot of interesting conversations. I think you'd agree we're probably a little bit of a yin and a yang, to use an Asian reference. We both see the same issue, perhaps from different angles. But with the refereeing from Bana and from Selena, I think the Business and Policy Committee has accomplished great things for our organization and for our community. And I couldn't be prouder to be serving with you on that organization. But of course, we're here tonight to toast you, to congratulate you on winning the 2020 Huffington Award. And the way we're going to do this, I'm going to start by having the first toast in your honor. And I understand your favorite drink is something I might have right here. Oh yes, a Diet Coke. I understand you enjoy Diet Coke. I enjoy Diet Coke as well. But I understand you also enjoy your bourbon. Haha. Okay, so we're going to put some of that in there too. We're going to create a toast to Charles Foster. So for the rest of this segment, you're going to be toasted by a number of very important friends of yours. But I'm going to start by saying, congratulations, Charles. The 2020 Huffington Award winner is so deserving. Thank you for all you do for the Asia Society. Congratulations. Hey, it's not that bad. I'm going to have a little more. Thank you. Oh, congratulations.
Hey, Charles. I hope you're well. Kyle McLaughlin here to send you warm wishes and congratulations on receiving the Asia Society's Huffington Award. Can't think of anyone more deserving for all your work with immigration reform and global rights advocacy. You're in very good company, I understand. President George H.W. Bush and Secretary of State James Baker also received the award. I'm of course waiting for my award. I don't think that's going to happen. Anyway, you and I know each other, of course, because of the film Mao's Last Dancer. You were very gracious in allowing me to come down and meet with you and hear your story, and most importantly, listen to that crazy Houston drawl that you have, which I love so much. I think the key word for me was when you said snow cone, and somehow that stuck with me, and that's how I got into the character. Anyway, I also want to send a quick shout out to your wife, Lily. Hi, Lily. I hope you're well. And to your sons, Zachary and Anthony. I'm sure they're very proud of you today, as am I. So, my friend, sending you lots of love, congratulations, and hope to see you soon. All the best.
Charles, Renette and I would like to congratulate you on being this year's recipient for the prestigious Huffington Award. I can't think of a better person who really exemplifies what it means to care about a community especially our immigrant community, and all the things you do to help people. Our fight for sensible immigration reform has been one I've really enjoyed through the years. Your leadership has just been outstanding. I know we don't have a bill yet, but I think we've laid the groundwork and the foundation for great things to come. I wish you and Lily and the boys a happy, healthy life, and you certainly have earned the right to take it a little easier, even though I know you're not going to. So congratulations, Charles, and we look forward to celebrating with you when this pandemic is over.
Lily and Charles, congratulations. Hey, we've filmed, this is probably the 22nd time we've filmed this. And I don't know how Lily did it. This is just so hard. Anyway, Charles and Lily, y'all have done so much for our community, impacting so many lives in so many different ways. Once again, congratulations. Y'all deserve it.
Congratulations. We miss seeing you. Let's go grab dinner after this is all over.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm Richard Everett. What a great role model our friend Charles is. Whether it's immigration reform, Greater Houston Partnership, Executive Committee, Interfaith Ministries, the Asia House, anything to do with tolerance and inclusiveness, Charles is at the top of the heap. A great role model.
Dear Charles, thank you for what you do for Asia Society, the Indo-American community, the immigration policies, and City of Houston. Thanks for your friendship. Charles and Lily, Sushila and I congratulate both of you on this Roy M. Huffington Award. Thank you very much.
Hello, Charles. I would like to congratulate you for all the good works you've done over the past many decades. I met you some 40 years ago, 1979, the year of the Iranian Revolution, and you obtained my green card and that of my friends during that year. Again, I wish you a good future, and it was a pleasure knowing you.
Hi, Charles. I really enjoyed working with you for the past 20 plus years at Asia Society, and you were instrumental in where Asia Society is here today. And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and thank you for all the work you did for the community at large.
Charles, I want to extend a personal congratulations to receive the Huffington Award. I can't think of anybody more deserving than you. You have been such an inspiration to the world and to me personally, a dear friend, a loyal friend, and the difference you have made in my life and journey, I could never repay. The only thing I wished that is I could be there with you and to see you accepting this marvelous award. Congratulations.
Charles, thank you so much for sharing your fascinating life in a conversation with us. Your exemplary dedication to your profession and to public service is a great role model for us. It is Asia Society's great honor to present the 2020 Roy M. Huffington Award to Charles Foster. Congratulations.
Thank you, Anne. This is a great honor, particularly coming from the Asia Society with which I've had such a long association, and particularly because it's named for my friend and mentor, Roy Huffington. So thank you very much.
We hope you enjoyed the evening. Thank you so much for joining us virtually to celebrate Charles Foster, recipient of this year's Huffington Award. We hope to see you next year in person, and meanwhile, wishing you and your loved ones good health and safety. Thank you and good night.